So, linked accounts versus unlinked accounts. Whoa, wow, I just hit my camera. Okay. What's the big deal? What's the difference? And who cares, right? Within YNAB, there are linked and unlinked accounts. And that is what we are going to talk about today on Money Monday. Welcome. If we have not met, my name is Jocelyn Victoria, and this is Victory Financial Fitness, where we help motivated women win with money by learning the YNAB platform. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our topic is linked or unlinked accounts. And if you're new or unfamiliar with YNAB, I'm going to take a moment and show you what the heck I am talking about. So this is the web version of YNAB. And if you'll bear with me just a second, my computer is very, very slow today. Let's see if I can get this to set up. Here we go. Okay, there we go. All right, you should be able to see this now. So when you add an account to YNAB, be that a checking account or a savings account or a tracking account or even a credit card account, the first thing that YNAB is going to ask you is to search for your bank. And if you choose to do that, you will link YNAB to your actual financial institution and directly to your account. Now, that is not the only option. If you scroll down a little bit, you have the option to add an unlinked account. And so doing that is a more of an offline kind of version. It means that YNAB and your financial institution will not communicate like they would if your YNAB account was linked to your financial institution. So that's what we're talking about. Is it a linked account or an unlinked account? So we're going to take just a few minutes to talk about that. And I am struggling to get back to my screen. So bear with me just a minute. Stop that share. Okay. All right. So what's the difference? What difference does it make? Why does it matter? Okay. So whether you link your accounts through YNAB to your financial institution or you create them as unlinked accounts is your personal preference. It's your choice. But we're going to take a few minutes and talk about the pros and cons of each, or the joys and challenges of each, so that you can make a more informed decision. So first, we're going to talk about the linked accounts. And the first obvious pro to that is if you have linked your account to YNAB, it's going to actively download your transactions as at whatever interval your financial institution decides. So maybe once a day or whatever. And so that means that when you look in YNAB, your transactions are already there. Now, they won't be categorized, but the actual date and merchant and amount will be loaded into YNAB on your behalf automatically. And so that can be a big convenience in keeping up and tracking your expenses. It can also reduce what you need to do physically to keep your YNAB up to date. Now, you would need to go in and categorize the transactions, but compared to manually entering the entire transaction, it does reduce that workload a noticeable amount. Now, the downside to that, the first one being you are actually connecting your YNAB account to your bank account. And so security-wise, that means more risk. YNAB does a really good job of using the most up-to-date protocols and does everything within their power to keep things secure. But there is always the risk of, your data being exposed in some way. Also, when you rely on the linked account to download your transactions and your expenditures, that reduces the intentionality with which you are tracking your expenses, because you don't, it's almost like you don't feel the pain of the expense, because you didn't enter the amount, you didn't have time to dwell over it, or to think through it the way you would if you're entering it manually. So there is less intentionality with the linked account as far as tracking your expenses, being mindful of your expenses, and that kind of thing. When you're entering them manually on your phone, the little bubble's going to pop up, and it's going to zap those out of your allocation. It, as far as I know, it will not do that when it's being uploaded automatically. So for an unlinked account, we'll talk about the joys and challenges there as well. So an unlinked account, the opposite side of the coin is you will have more privacy with respect to your bank accounts and your data and your information. It automatically is less risky because you're not connecting any third party to your accounts through your financial institutions. Also, the flip side of a linked account is you will have more intentionality with which to enter those transactions. You're going to say, on the 10th, I went to the grocery store and I spent $275, and that will register with your mind, body, and spirit that, wow, that was a lot of money. You'll also obviously categorize it as well, but you'll also see as you're going along how that's affecting your spending plan. And so it builds in a lot more intentionality than a linked account would. On the downside, it does mean that there will be more of a burden of actually entering that date and that merchant and that expenditure every time you make a purchase, unless you choose to download your transactions to your own computer and then upload them to YNAB without linking the account. There is a way to do that. It can save you some time, but if you are working with multiple accounts, for example, a checking account and a savings account and a money market account, and there are transactions going back and forth between those three accounts, it can sometimes get a little gummed up. So if you're doing things diligently and keeping up day to day, week to week, that lessens that, but it can happen. So that is a downside to that. Similar to that, there also is potential for more calculation errors, just simple math errors, because it is a manual process, and you can transpose a number or otherwise have some sort of entry error. It's not the end of the world, it can be fixed, but it is something that is part and parcel of manual entry. What I mentioned a moment ago as far as the download and upload is called a file import. It can be done on the web application, and rather than downloading your transactions directly to YNAB, you download them to your tablet or laptop, and then you upload them to YNAB. So you get the same benefit with a bit more security and a little less risk. So that's the gist of it. It comes down to a personal preference, what works best for you, what fits for the season of life that you're in, and the other point to bear in mind is you decide linked or unlinked account by account. So every time you set up an account, you can choose to link or unlink the account. So if it makes more sense to link, for example, your credit card account, you can link that. If you're wary of linking your checking account, you don't have to. You have that. It's not a global thing. You can choose which accounts to link or unlink, depending on what meets your needs the best. So that's a short jaunt into linked versus unlinked. If you have questions, please place them in the comments. I read all the comments and I do my best to answer them. I usually answer them in a post or a video. For those of you who are interested in one-on-one coaching for YNAB, that is available. Simply go to my website, victoryfinfit.com, and sign up for a financial fresh start. That's a one-on-one virtual coaching session with me to get you set up on YNAB. If you're already set up on YNAB and need some particulars, it's good for that as well. So I leave you with that. And in the meantime, please remember that resources track diligently stretch further, and please take time each day to make a joyful noise to the Lord. I'll see you next time.